It's wonderful this morning to be joined by Pam and Ruth, two members of the prayer knitting group at Trinity. They're going to tell us a little bit about the group and some of what God has done through their ministry and their praying together. Pam, you've been a member of the prayer knitting group for quite a long time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the group?
Yes, the group we call the Prayer Shawl Ministry, and it began something like 12 years ago, actually in a home, a home, not in a church. And that was really a group of ladies who were interested in knitting and crocheting, time to get together to work on what we'd heard was a worldwide ministry. Certainly our connection was through Martha, who was a previous minister's wife, and her father in America had a group at his church called Prayer Shawl Ministry. So I think it was Anne Bingham who jumped on that, and we met together. And the idea being that we would knit, crochet, chat, pray, and work together to produce garments for many reasons. Sometimes people were sad, sometimes people were happy and celebrating. And so it really began from there. We believe that as we pray for people, that God hears our prayers and answers them. And by knitting shawls and praying for a particular person or a particular situation, we're committing ourselves to spend time in prayer for them and then produce a tangible evidence of the prayer and God's love for them.
Thank you, Pam. Ruth, you're relatively new to the group, but do you want to tell us a little bit about that praying for others that you do as a group?
When we moved back to Hexham a couple of years ago, I was very comfortable with the idea of knitting. I'd been in a knit and natter group at our previous church, but it was very much a social event. But what struck me when I came to Hexham was the fact that there was prayer within the meeting. And looking at it now, looking back over the 2 years, I can see a sort of pattern of prayer going right through it, right from the need of the person in the first place to the response. There's a prayer at the start of the meeting, and if you're knitting at home, we're encouraged thoughtfully to pray for that person or to bear them in mind. The shawl or whatever is then blessed with a prayer. It's delivered with a prayer to the doorstep as it is now. But yes, and the responses that have come back from the people, they don't always have to write a thank you letter, but they often mention love and prayer and how they felt comforted by the receipt of the shawl, or the hats. The little baby hats are well received by the Mums and Babes group. And yes, I mean, people talk about the tangible cushion of love and prayer around me, and somebody else described it as the shawl was very warm and comforting, and that it was a wonderful way of bringing the warmth and the love of God to that difficult situation, but also into happy situations as well, I must say. And you know, the prayer shawls go out to new babies, new families, and it's a time of blessing, but it's also a time of difficulty for some families as they struggle, and it's nice for them to have something touchy-feely that they can identify with at any time, really. At some point in that past year, I must have looked particularly stressed about managing everything online, and the ladies knit me a shawl as a reminder that, you know, we're not doing this on our own. Everybody's in it together. And I was very, very overcome by that and very grateful for it.
Thank you, Ruth. It's wonderful to hear how the prayer is weaved through, knitted through, you might say, from the beginning to the end, and that the prayers continue for the people who receive the shawls. A real sign of the prayer, it's not just knitting, but it is a prayer. It is an act of discipleship, as we're thinking about in our services. But Pam, you also have told me that some of the members of the group are not yet Christians, don't come to church. So the group has a sort of missional feel to it as well. you want to tell us a little bit about that?
And having met people in the swimming pool and met people at a class, the members have talked about they were going to knitting or they're going to prayer knitting, and so there was interest shown, and consequently we have at least 2 or 3 ladies who come and are very productive, I have to say, to the stock, and that's lovely to see. And even to the lovely thing that 1 or 2 have started to help with some of the Trinity coffee mornings or occasions, and allow, giving extra help in that way, which is a real blessing. And it shows that there's an interest there, and that's what we would desire and hope. But I also thought I could say that we don't always have a request, so it's not that we're just sitting waiting for requests. We just keep on knitting, and now Ruth has the store box. But we have made for the Salvation Army, 60, 80, 30, West End refugee, and I could go on to where the scarves and hats are sent to. And always we have a little card that we put in with every garment, which explains that it is made with love and sent with love, and God's love, and hope that they will be wrapped in that love.
Thank you, Ruth and Pam. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of the story of your small group, or one of your small groups, with us. It's really good to hear what God's doing through the work of the Prayer Shawl Knitting Ministry. Thank you.